Couples therapists, without breaking confidentiality, what are some relationships that instantly set off red flags, and do you try and get them to work out? One partner says they're seeking your services to help them determine if they want to stay together. The other partner says they're seeking your services to make it so they stay together. Then it's about highlighting the points and allowing the person who is on the fence decide what they want, since the other person knows. That's so depressing, just waiting for someone to decide if they want you. I'm not a therapist, but my therapist straight face told me that there are worse options than divorce. Got divorced and it was the best thing that happened to me. That's what my therapist said to me shortly after we got kicked out of couples counseling because my partner was so unmanageable. It genuinely was the best decision for me. My partner is still angry I left, but I've never felt better about myself. Cheers to you and your self-preservation. I saw a couple that was doing retaliatory cheating and telling each other about it. When they got through their anger, they decided to call a truce and made peace. With their level of emotional maturity, I doubt it lasted. I don't know if I helped them or prolonged their suffering. It was their decision to come to counseling, so I think it was the help they wanted. Other clients realize what they really want is divorce counseling. What's the best way to behave civilly and minimize damage to the kids while we go our separate ways? I think it would be great if divorce counseling were normalized. People who approach therapy with the idea that they must convince the therapist that they're right and their partner is wrong. Almost like they're complaining to a parent or boss to have them sort out the problems. Yes, my patient wanted me to pick a side and complained about the partner every single time. When I pointed that out, that person just said, "You don't understand." Contempt. When I experience true contempt from one in the relationship, I know it is usually over. Look towards a peaceful ending at that point if possible. Contempt, one of Dr. John Gottman's 4 horsemen predictors of divorce, along with criticism, stonewalling and defensiveness. 1. Couples in a tit-for-tat arrangement. For example, I cheated so you can have one night to cheat with whomever, or I violated your trust and did drugs. You can go out and do whatever for one night. It erodes trust and compounds the hurt. 2. An affair that won't end. I've never seen a relationship bounce back where a partner is still in contact with their GFBF. I don't mean an ex-GFBF. I mean the person X is having the affair with, or is lying about it. 3. Control to an excessive amount. I most commonly see partners having to send pictures holding up a certain number of fingers or proving that it's a live picture. This is abuse. 4. Overbearing parents and in-laws. I understand there's a ton of cultural nuance here, and I work with couples who have arranged marriages, as well as the South Asian community. However, when a spouse is more allied with their parents and calls them on speakerphone for fights, or often speaks ill of their partner to their parents, I usually see these couples stay very unhappily married for years. It's sad. If it's not abuse and a partner is willing to end an affair and genuinely work on it, I'll help support. I think couples therapy is sometimes helping couples have the courage to voice what they really want, and that may be separation. As someone who went to couples therapy because of my overbearing mother, we actually did get through it but almost broke up multiple times. We are healing though, and I had learned how to unenmesh from my mother's abuse. Relationship therapist here. One of the biggest red flags I see when working with a new couple is when they've totally forgotten the good. Part of relationship therapy is reconnecting a couple with what they like about each other, what initially attracted them to each other, and what the positives are between them. When people come in and they've been so unhappy for so long that they actually can't remember what it was like to be in love, or to even like each other, they are just about hopeless. You don't have to be happy for therapy to work, but if you can't even reminisce about the good times, then the good times are probably over. When I see a couple in which one or both of the members are seeking to change something fundamental about the other person, we process where the need for the change comes from and the person with the issue evaluates whether it's a deal breaker for them or not. We work on acceptance and tolerance of others. I also recommend my couples are also in individual therapy on their own. It's very easy to work out when one person knowingly prioritizes their own wants and needs over their partner's. Relationships like this are often doomed because the person simply doesn't care enough to make any meaningful change. Not my client. but I had to watch as my own roommate dealt with her fiance. He was A. controlling her physically, activities, financials. B. continuously dismissing her feelings, assessments, opinions. Fiance would revert to baby talk, speaking to roommate like she was an uneducated child. Daddy knows best type of gaslighting garbage. C. trying to hide his narcissistic tendencies behind his good church boy exterior. This was all happening in my condo while she was waiting to move out and marry him. I usually tried to stay out of their issues, but one afternoon I softly encouraged her, saying I agreed with her an argument I'd witnessed earlier in the day. She came back that night after the fiancé convinced her that I was jealous and was trying to break them up so I could have him. She barely talked to me again until she moved out. Sadly, they did get married, have 2 kids, and she's a completely isolated stay-at-home mom. I don't even want to imagine what it's like for her at home. A guy went through this with a roommate as well. Her boyfriend was emotionally abusive and angry. Finally, after months of hearing her complain about him, I told her I was no longer comfortable with him coming over if I was home. She got so mad at me she immediately moved out and into his house that very day, and we never spoke again. Makes me really sad, but I hope she's out of that situation now. Someone else's response made me think of this one. When a partner raises objection to meeting with me individually. During the first session, I share that during assessment I like to meet with them both together and once each individually. Occasionally I'll have partners who suddenly become very critical or suspicious about this, asking why I do that, and is it ethical, and the classic I've never heard of a marriage counselor doing that before. It goes beyond curiosity or simply inquiring about practice. There is an incredulous and almost panicked tone to it, and sure enough, every single time, they turn out to be some variation of controlling, manipulative, abusive. Edit. Just to clarify for a few of the comments, I'm not talking about doing concurrent, ongoing individual and couples sessions. This is just a one-off individual assessment session. My first 3 sessions are usually 1. Couples session, 2. Partner A individual, and 3. Partner B individual. After that we are typically only as a couple, unless another one-off is needed for further assessment down the road. If needed, I refer out for ongoing concurrent individual or pause for more intensive individual. And thanks for the silver and awards. This makes a lot of sense. It's like they are scared of not being able to control their or someone else's image if they can't be in the room with them. I was in couples therapy. At the end of the first session, the therapist asked us to say one nice thing about each other. I went first, said something nice about him. Therapist asked him to say something, and he replied, "My mother always told me if you can't say something nice, say nothing. So I'll say nothing." Felt so sorry for the therapist. And yes, that's when I started planning my exit. I am now very happy in a new relationship and my revenge is to be living my beat life. Very happy now. All hail the beat life. Whataboutism. Instead of taking ownership and responsibility for their contribution to the degradation of the relationship, one or both parties simply point out an example of the other exhibiting a similar behavior. It's a red flag because it illustrates their lack of self-awareness and poor communication skills. Communication is key when trying to mend a tattered relationship, because without respectful communication the conflict recovery process can never begin. In the conflict recovery model, both parties agree to the terms under which they will communicate. No yelling, no interrupting, no "I told you so's," etc. Each party gets a chance to share how the other's actions make them feel. Then they each propose their solutions and identify where they made assumptions or where they got triggered and why. Then they identify where they're willing to compromise. Next, we create an actionable plan with deadlines and we monitor the progress to see if the proposed solutions were effective. Everything can go to crap, but once communication stagnates you're in real trouble. So even if you're arguing you're still doing okay, you just need to work on how you're communicating. This reminds me of Shaw's quote, "The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place." I'll just say that if you find yourself screaming "I'm not freaking yelling at you," you might have a communication problem. My mom used to do that. She'd yell at us and we'd say "Please stop yelling," and she'd respond with "I am not yelling." Constant, needless escalation. When I don't think we need this expensive thing is escalated to you don't really love me. Major problem. It shows up quickly in therapy if you're watching for it. Mostly because the one using this to avoid accountability is almost guaranteed to play this card in relation to therapy itself. Either I had to drag them here or they're just trying to break up with me. What they're doing is avoiding conversation about the issue by blowing it up into a bigger problem than it is, so they can make the other person respond to their feelings rather than dealing with their concerns. High conflict relationships. If frequent and bitter conflict began a few months or less after the relationship began and continued, relationship therapy is going to be a shit show, won't be helpful. Either the conflict will continue indefinitely or come to an end. Not just my opinion. The research supports this. I fixed mine by realizing the conflict was caused by past trauma and mental illness being triggered and fixing those. So I'd say going to the cause is the best bet. I'm not a couples therapist, but I recommended a couples therapist to a co-worker for some premarital counseling. My partner and I had really enjoyed our premarital sessions from this super nice therapist, and when a girl from my work got engaged she asked for his number. The day after their first session I got a call from the girl saying, "I can't believe you sent me to this horrible, invasive, rude counselor." I was in a panic. "Oh no, what happened?" she explained. We went in there and sat down, and the first thing he asked was, "So, why do you want to get married? How rude is that? How dare he?" That's when I realized that maybe their relationship wasn't going to pan out. They called off the wedding a few months later. When one person is entirely dependent on the other, especially at a relatively young age, I mean financially and emotionally, these are typically young women, sometimes young men as well, who do not work, do not have children, stay home all day and have no friends or hobbies outside of hanging out with their spouse. Very unhealthy, and a huge red flag. Always ends in a painful and messy breakup. Generally, we try to get them to find a friend, join a community, get a job or volunteer, something to provide them with self-worth and personal fulfillment outside of their spouse. I always wonder how this ends up happening. The idea of joining a relationship without anything of your own to fall back on is legitimately terrifying. My mom is a therapist and she sometimes tells me a little bit about her cases, nothing specific or identifying. She once came home really upset about a case and told me a little bit. Basically, this guy sent his wife in because she was having trouble with the baby. He came with her and interrupted her at basically every turn and basically told my mom his wife was bipolar. In another session, the patient admitted she almost felt angry with the baby and herself because she knew she would be a terrible mother. Her husband had been saying it since she got pregnant. My mom told me it became almost instantly clear that the husband was manipulative and abusive, and probably trying to stop her from connecting with the child. As soon as my mom suggested she was angry with her husband and not her baby, all of their future sessions were cancelled. That's terrifying. As a clinical psychologist, I focused mainly on behavioral medicine and cognitive assessment, but did my fair share of marriage couples work. Refusal or inability to compromise is a ginormous red flag, one that, I believe, is empirically validated. Compromise is a significant predictor of satisfaction in relationships, and it plays an important role in the long-term success of marriages and relationships in general. I feel a lot like that was my first marriage. You can't have one person doing all the compromising all the time. It just destroys everything. He also wouldn't let me see a therapist though, so I had no idea how toxic and controlling his behavior was. I'm reading through these as a mental checklist to keep in check my own actions, not just my partner's. Thanks everyone for sharing. I'm an MFT, marriage and family therapist, and for me, an unofficial litmus test is when I ask at some point in the first few sessions how the couple met. If there is absolutely no positive affect from either person, no one even cracks a smile, or they just give me a single sentence answer, "We met at a party," that's usually a signal they've been so unhappy so long. Or the conflict is so overwhelming that they can't access those good warm fuzzy feelings from the beginning. I partly wanted to do this job because I'm a romantic at heart and love hearing real love stories, and for the most part, hearing about their first few months together is an actually fun and illuminating part of therapy. Only a few times have I seen the flat or no effect couples, and it breaks my heart every time. I remember learning in grad school that most couples who come for therapy have lived unhappily for an average of 7 years before trying to get help. They come for that first session, and if they aren't cured after that, most think that therapy doesn't work and don't come back. To anyone who may be considering individual or couples therapy as a result of this thread, go for it, and be prepared for it to take some time and energy from you and your therapist. I'm a therapist, new at couples counseling, but one of the flags I've seen is one person digging their heels in and not accepting any feedback or suggestions. Then that person tells me and partner that they are trying. I called him out on it, said that he needed to evaluate what he's willing to do and not do. Needless to say, didn't hear back from them. Another weird one is separating without a plan. All that's gonna do is teach you how to live without each other emo. I would ask them, okay, how do you know when the separation works? I don't know. When I start missing them, I guess, is what I typically hear. My mom is a couples therapist and she says there are some people that she has told you're not going to work out on the first couple sessions. Our therapist told my ex that, based on our several months of sessions, nothing I did would be good enough for him. She was not wrong. All these responses have made me so much more grateful for my younger sister, who pestered me until I was in tears of anger to leave my ex. Within a week I could see how much better my life was without him. I'll never be able to tell her how much it means to me that she was ready for me to hate her, as long as it meant I was away from him. She might get the idea if you say it just like that. Like, wow, Alicine 0Z can't even describe how much it meant. That means it meant a lot. Unless your sister isn't with us anymore and that's why you can't tell her, in which case. Good question. I doubt I have much to add that others haven't already said, but the biggest one I notice is respect. Respecting space, boundaries, feelings, interests. Relationships are also important, and lack of respect by either person for the other is going to mean big problems. I would definitely try to help them work through it, but it's hard to point out to someone that something they are doing is hurting the other. Which leads to my second red flag, lack of communication. LOL. Obligatory, not a therapist but my own experience in therapy. My wife and I, separated now, went to couples counseling where it was a husband-wife counseling team. I thought that would be great, since it may help us open up more having a member of both sexes there. My wife was hesitant about couples counseling, but agreed to try it. We had our initial session together and it was cold and difficult, as expected, and my wife said she still wanted to leave, but they convinced her to try a few more sessions to see if anything clicked as we opened up. We had an individual session the next time, and I thought it went fantastically. I gained a completely different understanding of intimacy, not sexual, but emotional and relational, and I was jazzed to start working at putting it into practice. My wife came out with tear stains and sat in her car crying before she finally left for home. We drove separately because she was coming from work and I from home. Our next appointment was another individual session. The male counselor and I were talking again, and he started digging into my expectations and desires in the relationship, what I loved about wife, etc. He point blank asked me, do you feel wife is a good match for you in life, and that you want to continue this relationship? And I was a little off put, but figured yeah, it's probably a good thing to establish that right off the bat. So I answered emphatically yes, and he just looked heartbroken and so very sad. I knew pretty well right then that we were toast. Wife admitted her affair the day before our next session and left. The ending was difficult to read. I'm sorry to hear that. Just remember, her affair isn't a reflection of your value. Hope things are moving in a better direction for you. Welp, they used them together on a regular basis. They continued to cheat on one another, fighting in front of their kids, cheating in front of their kids, and oh wait, in front of their kids. When doing couples work, your client is the relationship itself, not person A or B. So of course we try to work it out, even knowing in our head there's no way in fucksville will these toxic mfs ever work this out. And believe me, I tried. I tried so hard, until this thing happened that I will never forget and tell my students about all the time. Person B was like, why don't you tell him, me, about you sleeping with your NBF? Quick note, I'm black and will type this word out to illustrate the hurt this word can cause. At that point I was just like, nah frick this. My dissertation was finished. I had maybe a month left at this spot before leaving the state. I just told them that we're done today and advised them to seek another therapist at the front desk because I was no longer able to accommodate them. I told the boss and I was Gucci. Really, I just wanted to reach over and slap the absolute crap out of dude. Other instances where the typical one person wants to save the relationship while the other person is halfway out the door. It's really depressing actually because you feel for that individual and they are trying, but that other person has other plans. Many of the times the other person was actively cheating and the spouse either knew, or that person would tell me low-key after the session. I hated couples counseling. Y'all never came to me as a first step, only a last resort. Boundary violations. Testing boundaries a little bit is okay, but repeatedly violating boundaries is a big red flag. I work a lot with people who have left abusive relationships and often they doubt they ever will date again and eventually want to. We work on their personal boundaries, but I also suggest some easy boundaries to have and how they can help. Boundary 1. Maintain your routine. If you go to bed at 9 PM and wake up to work out at 5 AM, maintain that. A decent person will respect that. A non-decent person will try to bulldoze through it. It might look like or stay up talking with me. I'm lonely. It's romantic to talk all night. If you aren't a teen, it isn't cute. It actually makes you too tired to be able to be present and critically reflective of the relationship. If they are teasing and making fun of your routine, you probably don't have the same values. It isn't about who is right or wrong. You probably aren't on the same page. Boundary 2. Cultural trend here is to move in together within a month, so might not apply elsewhere so much. For almost 6 months, don't get together more than 3-4 times a week. This boundary helps you to preserve your you-ness. It gives you time for your interests and friends. It very quickly flushes out insecurities or controlling behavior in a potential partner. Other good ones to pay attention to are cute things that violate a boundary. Hey, I have my kids this weekend, so no in-person time and I will only spend time on my phone after the kids go to bed at 8, and guess what? The person cutely surprises you with a coffee. I'd give this one a one-time pass. Thanks for the coffee. Sorry I can't have you in. I'm not ready for you to meet the kids. etc. The person's response to being called out tells you so much. Folks, knowing your boundaries, knowing how to set them and knowing how to maintain them are so very important to your own personal well-being. Also learn how to respect other people's boundaries. Boundaries don't have to be permanent. They can change, but they can change because someone has earned it or lost it. Saying directly to each other, I don't love you. I am just here to try and like you enough to stay together. And the other person replaying with good, we can do that. Partners refusing to listen, absolutely deafening themselves to certain explicit statement, active physical abuse and each person admitting it and trying to be okay with it, name calling in session and when I intervene they both get mad at me, complete disrespect and true contempt with each other, yet refusing to accept their relationship is over. I could keep going. These are obvious red flags. Gottman's research does a good job of answering the opposite of this question. He studies what factors predict a couple will stay together. He has like 90% accuracy. LOL at the both getting mad at you thing. That's crazy. I was just talking about this case today. Years ago when I was starting out, I had a female client come in and she reported anxiety, depression, etc. because her ex-husband was bothering her. I thought that was completely average and normal, so I asked her about it. She recounted many times that her and the ex clashed. I said, you know, you don't have to interact with him and maybe just distancing yourself is the way to go. Then she told me that they still lived together and had no plans of moving. The red flag, indicted I was dealing with two crazy people. Hahaha, my parents are this. Legally separated but live together. I am the poster child for don't stay together for the kids. We are all adults now but they still live together because separating assets is hard and they are both so crazy no one else will keep them company. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.